You know what never gets old? Great games. Seriously, while some titles from the past look about as appealing now as my high school yearbook photos, others, well, they're ageless wonders, somehow kept their magic intact. Today we're diving into 10 absolute classics that have aged like fine wine. These aren't just nostalgia favorites, they're still fun to play in 2025. Whether you're revisiting them or checking them out for the first time, these games deliver. Before we dive in, make sure you hit that subscribe button for more gaming deep dives, wild what ifs, and the occasional emotional damage over pixelated nostalgia. Now grab your controller, blow off that cartridge for old time's sake, and let's jump into our countdown of the top 10 games that absolutely still hold up today. Starting at number 10, we've got Age of Empires 2, the RTS game that refuses to die. This medieval strategy masterpiece dropped all the way back in 1999, when people were still worried about Y2K and Smash Mouth was telling us all about their all-star status. Yet somehow, this game is still thriving with active tournaments and a passionate community. What makes it so special? Well, it nailed that perfect balance between resource gathering, base building, and epic battles. Whether you're creating sprawling castles or watching your trebuchets knock down enemy walls, the core gameplay loop is just awesome. Here's the wild part. Microsoft is still releasing expansions for this thing. The definitive edition now has 42 civilizations, up from the original 13. That's like if Super Mario Bros. Kept getting official new worlds 25 years straight. It's absolutely crazy. And let's be honest, we all know at least one person who spent thousands of hours converting enemy units with that iconic Wololo chant. If you've never tried Age of Empires 2, the Definitive Edition, you can play it on PC or even Xbox, and it's the perfect getaway. Your medieval empire awaits. At number 9, let's talk about the game that makes physics puzzles hilarious, Portal 2. This masterpiece from Valve might be the youngest entry on our list, but at over a decade old, it still delivers an experience that nothing else has matched. The portal gun mechanics feel as fresh and mind-bending now as they did in 2011. And oh my god, the writing. Stephen Merchant as the bumbling Weekly and J.K. Simmons as Cave Johnson deliver some of the gaming's funniest lines ever. When life gives you lemons, don't make lemonade, make life take the lemons back. I still quote that in everyday situations way too often. The puzzles themselves are these perfect little packages of I'm completely stumped to wait to oh I get it moments that never get old. And when you introduce the bouncy and speedy gels later on, things get even more awesome. Fun fact, those gels were actually inspired by a student project called Tag the Power of Paint. Valve straight up hired these students and incorporated their ideas. Talk about a dream job interview. If you somehow still haven't played Portal 2, you absolutely can today. It runs on practically any PC, it's on Switch, and backwards compatible on Xbox. And please play the co-op campaign with a friend. It's basically a whole separate game with its own story, and you'll either end up best friends forever or never speaking again. Either way, it's worth it. Number 8 brings us to Shadow of the Colossus, a game that is basically 16 boss fights and nothing else. And you know what? That's all it needed to be. This PS2 classic from 2005 took a simple concept, ride horse, find giant, climb giant, stab giant, and turned it into one of the most atmospheric, emotional experiences in gaming history. What's incredible is how the game communicates so much while saying so little. The vast, empty landscapes, the melancholy music, the way your horse, Aggro, feels like your only friend in this lonely world. It all adds up to something that hits you right in the feels, even 20 years later. And those colossi, each one is basically a living, breathing puzzle that you have to figure out how to scale. There's nothing quite like the feeling of hanging on for dear life as a skyscraper-sized creature tries to shake you off. I still get goosebumps every time. Did you know the creator originally planned to have 48 colossi in the game? They eventually scaled back to 16, but can you imagine how epic that would have been? If you want to experience this masterpiece today, the 2018 PS4 remake by Bluepoint is absolutely gorgeous. It keeps everything that made the original one special while making it look like it could have been released yesterday. Trust me, this is one journey worth taking.
I've been expecting you, my brethren.
Lucky number 7 is the game that revolutionized third-person action, Resident Evil 4. In 2005, this GameCube masterpiece changed everything with its over-the-shoulder camera and perfect blend of horror, action, and cheese. And I mean perfect cheese. Your right hand comes off. Leon Kennedy's one-liners are the stuff of legend. What makes RE4 still amazing to play is how good the core combat loop feels. Shoot a cultist in the knee, roundhouse kick them in the face, knife a few parasites, rinse and repeat. Somehow it never gets old. The variety is insane too. 1 minute you're fighting off villagers in a burning barn, the next you're in a castle solving puzzles, then suddenly you're in a minecart shooting mutant. It just keeps throwing new scenarios at you. The game was so influential that its DNA is in practically every third-person shooter that came after it. That over-the-shoulder aiming, yeah, that wasn't really a thing before Leon made it cool. Here's a wild fact. Resident Evil 4 has such a rocky development that one of its scrap prototypes eventually evolved into an entirely different franchise, Devil May Cry. Imagine if they stuck with that version instead. You can play RE4 on literally anything these days. The recent remake is phenomenal, but the original still holds up amazingly well. At number 6, we've got the crowbar-wielding masterpiece that is Half-Life 2. Released in 2004, the first-person shooter did something remarkable. It told a compelling story without ever breaking first-person perspective or forcing cutscenes down your throat. You're always in Gordon Freeman's HEV suit, experiencing the world through his eyes. The game's atmosphere is still unmatched. City 17 feels like a real place under alien occupation, with its Eastern European architecture and the looming citadel in the distance. And the characters. Alex Vance has more personality than most modern game protagonists, and she was created with technology that's old enough to vote now. But what really makes Half-Life 2 timeless is the physics-based gameplay. The gravity gun is still one of the most satisfying weapons ever created. Nothing beats the feeling of picking up a saw blade and launching it through a zombie, or grabbing a radiator and using it as a shield. The game basically turns every environment into a playground of possibilities. Remember when Half-Life 2 forced everyone to install this weird thing called Steam, and we all hated it? Yeah, that turned out okay for Valve, I guess. You can easily play Half-Life 2 today on PC through Steam, where it frequently goes on sales for pocket change. And with the community creating texture packs and mods, it can look surprisingly modern. There's even a VR mod if you want to experience City 17 in a whole new dimension. Just watch out for head crabs jumping at your actual face. It's not for the faint of heart. Halfway through our list at number 5, we got the granddaddy of first-person shooters, Doom. The demon-slaying, shotgun-pumping classic from 1993 is the gaming equivalent of comfort food. It's simple, it's satisfying, and it just works. No reloading, no cover mechanics, no battle passes, just you, your arsenal, and hallways full of demons to turn into giblets. The genius of Doom is its elegant simplicity. Find keys, shoot monsters, locate exit, repeat. But within that framework, id Software created something that feels just as good to play now as it did when Bill Clinton was first entering the White House. And let's talk about that modding community. For over 30 years, fans have been creating new levels, new monsters, and even total conversions. There's so much content out there that you could play a different Doom mod every day for the rest of your life and never run out. Here's my favorite Doom fact. It's become the benchmark for can this device run a video game? People have gotten Doom running on pregnancy tests, ATMs, refrigerators, and even inside other games. There's something beautiful about being able to play Doom on the very thing that's displaying your ultrasound. Playing Doom today is super easy. It's on every modern console, available on PC through various sources, and probably running on your smart fridge right now. My recommendation? Try GZ Doom on PC for the classic experience with some modern conveniences. Your shotgun is waiting. At number 4, we have the game that put the Vania in Metroidvania, Castlevania: Symphony of the Night. This 1997 PlayStation classic is the perfect example of a game whose 2D visuals have aged like fine wine, while many of its 3D contemporaries now look like melted action figures. Symphony of the Night flipped the Castlevania formula on its head by letting you explore a massive, interconnected castle as Dracula's son. The mix of tight platforming, RPG elements, and that satisfaction of finding new abilities to access previously blocked areas creates a gameplay loop that is still being copied today. The game is packed with secrets, weapons, items, familiars, and even an entirely hidden inverted castle that doubles the game's size. I still remember the first time I discovered that twist and my mind was completely blown. And we can't forget that incredible soundtrack that seamlessly blends classical music with rock and gothic themes. It's so good that I sometimes put it on while working just to feel like I'm dramatically walking through a haunted castle. Fun fact, Symphony of the Night was actually a commercial disappointment when it was first released. 2D games were considered out of style in the early 3D era. But like any good vampire, it refused to die and eventually became one of the most influential games ever made. You can play today on PS4, Xbox, or even your phone, though personally I recommend using a controller for the precise platform. And if you've never experienced Dracula's iconic line about miserable little piles of secrets, you're in for a treat. Our bronze medal goes to the adventure that defined 3D gaming, The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time. This 1998 Nintendo 64 masterpiece was many gamers' first true 3D adventure. And while those polygons might look a bit chunky today, the gameplay and world design remain absolutely stellar. Ocarina of Time created the template that action-adventure games would follow for decades, the lock-on target system. That was revolutionary. Before Z targeting, 3D combat was like trying to swat a fly while riding a unicycle. Technically possible, but needlessly difficult. The game takes you on an epic journey through time itself, starting as a kid in a forest village and eventually becoming the hero who saves all of Hyrule. Each dungeon is a perfectly crafted puzzle box with its own unique mechanics, and that satisfying aha moment when everything clicks. Here's a mind-blowing stat. Ocarina of Time has the highest Metacritic score of any game ever made, a near perfect 99 out of 100. Over 25 years later, nothing has beaten it. Not God of War, not Elden Ring, not even Mario's latest adventure. That's like if Citizen Kane was still the highest rated movie on Rotten Tomatoes in 2050. If you want to play Ocarina today, the 3DS remake is probably the best version, with improved graphics and some quality of life fixes for infamous headaches like the Water Temple. But the original is also available on Nintendo Switch Online if you want that authentic N64 experience, awkward camera and all.
Introducing the next generation from Nintendo, New Super Mario World.
The silver medal spot belongs to the Mustachios Plumber's 16-bit masterpiece, Super Mario World. Released in 1990 as a Super Nintendo launch title, this game is the platforming equivalent of a perfectly cooked steak. It just doesn't get better than this. The controls are so tight and responsive that they make Mario feel like an extension of your own hands. What makes Super Mario World special is how it constantly introduces new ideas and builds on them. Just when you think you've seen everything, the game throws in a new power-up, enemy type, or level gimmick that changes how you play. And then there's Yoshi, Gamon's goodest boy, making his debut here and instantly becoming an icon. The secret exits and alternate paths were mind-blowing at the time, Discovering that Star World existed or finding your way to that special zone felt like becoming part of some secret gaming Illuminati. And anyone who's beaten Tubular knows true gaming pain. The visuals are timeless too. Those vibrant colors and pixel-perfect sprites look just as charming today as they did when the first Bush was president. They don't make them like this anymore. Well, except when they literally do in Super Mario Maker. Super Mario World is super accessible today through the Nintendo Switch Online service or the Super Nintendo Classic Mini Console. And trust me, it's still an absolute joy to play. Some games get old, this one just gets classic. And at number 1, the game that time couldn't touch, Chrono Trigger. This 1995 JRPG Dream Team collaboration between the creators of Final Fantasy and Dragon Quest created something truly timeless. It's the Beatles of video games. Extraordinary talent coming together to make something even greater than the sum of its parts. What makes Chrono Trigger special? Everything. The sprite work is gorgeous and full of character. The battle system lets you party members combo attacks together in satisfying ways. The story about time travel across prehistoric, medieval, and post-apocalyptic eras is engaging without getting bogged down in JRPG convolution. And unlike other RPGs of its era, there are no random battles. You can see enemies on the field and choose to engage or avoid them. This was revolutionary in 1995 and still feels modern today. The multiple endings were also ahead of their time. Depending on when you challenge the final boss and what quest you completed, you can get one of over a dozen different conclusions. This was mind-blowing in an age before YouTube walkthroughs and encouraged actual replayability. Fun fact, despite its legendary status, Chrono Trigger never got an official European release until 14 years after its original launch. European RPG fans were basically living in the dark ages. You can play Chrono Trigger easily today on PC via Steam or on mobile devices. The Nintendo DS version is often considered the definitive edition if you can track it down. Whichever version you choose, you're in for one of gaming's greatest adventures. One that's just as captivating now as it was back then. And there you have it. 10 games that have stood the test of time and are absolutely worth playing today. From the pixel-perfect 16-bit era to early 3D adventures, these classics remain just as fun as they were when they first blew our minds. What's incredible is how accessible these games are today. Between remasters, digital stores, and subscription services, nearly every classic on this list is just a few clicks away from being playable on modern hardware. If you've never experienced some of these titles, I genuinely envy you. Getting to play Chrono Trigger or Portal 2 for the first time is something special, and if you're revisiting them, you already know they've got that magic quality that keeps drawing you back. So what games would make your list? Drop a comment below with the classics you think still hold up perfectly today. And if you enjoyed this video, do the usual like and subscribe dance. It really helps the channel. Until next time, remember, great games never die, they just get ported to new systems. See you in the next video.